Thomas Edison. The name alone evokes images of incandescent light bulbs, phonographs, and groundbreaking innovation. But behind every great invention lies a story, one of relentless perseverance, visionary thinking, and a deep belief that tomorrow can always be better than today. Born in 1847 in the small town of Milan, Ohio, he would go on to change the world in ways no one could have predicted. The man who held over 1,000 patents and shaped the very foundation of modern life wasn't born with the world at his feet. He was born with a spark that would ignite an era of invention. Today, we're diving into the life of a man whose inventions made light, sound, and communication possible in ways that were once only dreamt of. This is the story of Thomas Edison, the man who lit up the world. But what if I told you Edison's biggest successes came from failure? Let's discover how Edison's mistakes made him the legend we know today. He wasn't always seen as the brilliant mind he would later become. In fact, he struggled in school, often labeled as a difficult student. His teacher once declared he was too slow to learn. But young Thomas had a thirst for knowledge that couldn't be dampened by traditional education. He was largely self-taught, constantly experimenting with chemicals, mechanics, and new technologies. He set up a small laboratory in the basement of his family's home and began experimenting with chemicals and rudimentary tools. His mother, who recognized his potential, took it upon herself to teach him at home, nurturing his curiosity and love for discovery. By his early teens, he was already selling newspapers and working around telegraph offices, absorbing the mechanics of communication wherever he could. In his spare hours, he experimented endlessly, turning everyday spaces into places of discovery. These early experiments weren't about success or failure. They were about understanding how the world worked, and that curiosity, once ignited, never left him. It was here that he developed a passion for understanding how things worked, something that would drive him for the rest of his life. Edison's story shows that perseverance can turn setbacks into breakthroughs. His first major invention came in 1869, when he invented the electromechanical vote recorder. It wasn't a commercial success, but it planted the seeds for what would come next. His relentless drive to create, innovate, and solve problems. It was in 1877 that he unveiled his first major breakthrough, the phonograph. It wasn't just a machine, it was a window into the future. For the first time, sound could be captured and played back. He was heralded as a genius, but in his mind, this was only the beginning. The phonograph, his talking machine, used a rotating cylinder to record and replay sound, allowing human voices to be preserved and heard again. It opened the door to recorded music, broadcasting, and modern entertainment. Imagine for a moment how the world reacted. For millennia, sound had been fleeting, heard once, then lost forever. That invention changed all of that, and it wasn't long before it became one of the most widely recognized inventions of its time. But the phonograph was just a stepping stone. Edison was driven by something bigger, a vision of a world where light could be as accessible as air, where electrical power could flow freely through cities, transforming lives. A world that could be lit even in the darkest of nights. The next chapter in Edison's life is one of fierce competition and technological revolution. By the late 1880s, he was at the center of the so-called War of Currents. Edison stood firmly behind direct current, convinced it was the safest and most reliable way to deliver electricity into homes. But another vision was emerging. Nikola Tesla, who had briefly worked for Edison's company before parting ways, believed alternating current could transmit power far more efficiently over long distances. That vision found its champion in George Westinghouse, who financed Tesla's ideas and deployed them at scale. What followed was more than a technical dispute. It became a clash of systems and philosophies. Edison defending a future built on caution and control, while Westinghouse backed alternating current, promised reach, efficiency, and a different path forward. But as Westinghouse's AC proved to be a more viable option for long-distance transmission, Edison found himself on the losing side of history. The war wasn't just about technical superiority, it became a battle of ideas, marketing, and public perception. Edison's efforts to discredit AC through public demonstrations where he electrocuted animals to show its dangers tarnished his reputation but highlighted just how deeply committed he was to his vision. Though he eventually lost the war, his contributions to electrical engineering were undeniable. Of course, no story of Thomas Edison would be complete without his crowning achievement, the incandescent light bulb. In 1879, after years of trial and error, he and his team of engineers finally succeeded in creating a practical, long-lasting light bulb. This moment marked a turning point in history, allowing homes, businesses, and streets to be bathed in electric light instead of the flickering flames of oil lamps or gas lights. It wasn't just a bulb. It was the beginning of a new rhythm of life. Work, learning, and creativity no longer had to end at sunset. The world could be alive with light, even in the darkest of nights. But Edison didn't stop there. His vision was more than just the invention of light. It was the creation of an entire electrical system that could power homes, factories, and entire cities. His work at Menlo Park, where he and his team built the first commercial power station in 1882, laid the foundation for the modern electric grid we rely on today. In that sense, Edison didn't just bring light to the world, he reshaped how the world lived. But he didn't stop at the light bulb. Over the next few decades, he went on to invent, refine, and perfect thousands of products. From the motion picture camera to the alkaline storage battery, Edison's innovations were everywhere, quietly shaping the world behind the scenes. He didn't just invent, he was a businessman and an entrepreneur. He understood that innovation needed infrastructure. So, he established the first industrial research laboratory in Menlo Park, where ideas could be nurtured and transformed into products. This was no small feat. His lab gave rise to countless inventions, including the carbon microphone used in early telephones. As the 20th century dawned, Edison turned his attention to new frontiers, like seeking alternative sources of energy. His obsession with renewable energy and sustainable power would continue throughout his life. Even as the world embraced the age of electricity, Edison continued to look toward the future. His influence was felt not just in the world of invention, but in the culture of innovation that followed. Perhaps his greatest legacy wasn't any single invention, but the model he created, where persistence, teamwork, and disciplined experimentation could turn imagination into reality. In the public eye, Edison was a larger-than-life figure, a symbol of progress, possibility, and innovation. But behind the scenes, he was just a man, driven by an insatiable curiosity, a love for learning, and a desire to leave the world better than he found it. Edison's philosophy was simple. Genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. He believed that failure wasn't the end, but simply a step on the path to success. He viewed setbacks not as barriers, but as necessary lessons that paved the way for future achievements. This mindset shaped his work and inspired countless others to follow in his footsteps. Though he passed away in 1931, Thomas Edison's legacy is still with us. His inventions touch every aspect of our daily lives, whether it's the light that brightens our homes or the technology that connects us to one another. He didn't just change the world, he made the world believe that anything was possible. Thomas Edison once said, "We don't know a millionth of 1% about anything." His journey was not just about discovering new technologies, but about exploring the vast unknown. If this illuminated something for you, you're always welcome here. And remember, it's Illumentary, my dear viewer.